isn't just a Michkov problem for me. Because honestly, he's the last dude we need to evaluate. I know he's good. Yeah. I don't know how good he's going to be. I think he's going to be a star. He looks pretty damn good already, and he has very little help. But we have expectations, and we need to evaluate, like, Tyson Foerster, Owen Tippett. He signed long-term, but where does he actually fit in the lineup? Joel Farabee, Bobby Brink, all of these wingers. I don't know if we can actually evaluate how good they can be without centers who can create any offense whatsoever, because they have none. And that's really, really disturbing when you think like I said, some tough decisions are going to have to be made sooner than later. They're going to have to balance out this lineup. And it's the bottom six, just the repetition that they have with the player types in the bottom six. You're going to have to move on from some and keep some and decide which ones are going to be here and which ones aren't. These wingers, you can't have a team of 9 right wingers. You're eventually going to have to trade some. Like, which ones should you trade? Which ones should you keep? I don't know how we make those decisions when they're not playing with centers.
It's fair. It's a fair point. And it's not an easy problem to solve, because again, if there was a big trade to be made, you would assume they would have made it already, because they know the problem. Like, there's a reason why they probably reached the bid on Luchenko, because they needed a center. And Luchenko, they were 100% confident, and at the very least, they've been justified on this front. Luchenko looks like he is an NHL center. How good of an NHL center, we shall see. I'm optimistic he can at least be a very good 2C. They think he can potentially be a 1C given development. Hopefully they're right. That would be great. That would solve a lot of problems for them. But at the very least, I think he's going to be a quality middle six center, which at least fills one of those spots. That said, you need more. And if we agree that Morgan Frost is not going to be a 1C, and I think we all can agree on that he is not a 1C now, and there is really no plausible path at this point for him becoming a 80 to 90 point center. This was kind of his last chance. You're like, all right, he's going to be on the power play with Michkov. He's going to be giving him his main line mate to start the year. If there's more in Morgan Frost, we're going to see it. And instead, he's getting scratched on a team where, like, the second line center right now is one of Scott Laughton or Ryan Poehling. Yeah, he's not 1C caliber. You would think if there was a trade to be made to get that guy, given the fact they know it's their biggest problem, they would have made it. I guess the fact they haven't tells me there isn't a trade to be made at this point for that guy. So, Bill, I share your frustration. It's the obvious problem with the team. I don't know what the path is to solving it, at least right now.
I might be able to accept that there isn't a trade to be made. I kind of fear, well, I have this thought in my head that maybe they're operating a little bit with the fear of the next Justin Williams, Patrick Sharp happening. Like, I think they're holding on to some guys a little longer than makes sense. Now, listen, they moved on from Ivan Provorov because that just wasn't going to work. They moved on from Kevin Hayes. He's old. That was never going to work. Tony DeAngelo, he's in the K because he's an a-hole. No one really wants to work with him. But you're going to have to trade someone who's probably going to end up being a pretty good player, whether it's a Frost, whether it's a Foerster, whether it's a Farabee, whether it's Brink. I bet you they're all decent NHL players. Farabee already is one, Yeah. But you have to give something to get something. And I wonder if Danny doesn't want his first, hockey trade to be something that we look back on and go, goddamn, we could really use Patrick Sharp.
I mean, the thing is, you just have to, what you get back has to be good enough for us not to care that you got rid of Patrick Sharp. I feel like the reason that we look back on those trades the way that we do is because what we got in return, maybe in the short term, was something that the Flyers needed, but in the long term was clearly not the right move for the organization. But if you trade, Rasmus Ristolainen for one of Nashville's center prospects or something, and that guy turns out to be pretty good, Like, no one cares. And also, no one cares if you trade Risto anyway.
Yeah.
If you trade Farabee and you get back a solid 2C, no one's going to be mad about it because we need one of those. Like, you just have to not F it up is really what it is.
I need to take a quick second to thank all of you who are watching on TV. And for more of this show, check out allphly.com. Check out Charlie's articles there, too. They're pretty good. Maybe this is an issue I made up in my head, but like when I see Patrick Sharp come back and I see this team have these obvious like log jams, and it's like, okay, we need to get something moving here, and they just don't. I worry that they're operating under that fear of we don't want to lose the trade. And it's like, sometimes you have to risk that in order to figure other stuff out.
Yeah, like there was a conversation we had in the media room today about David Jiricek, and somebody brought up like, would you like? I think somebody straight up asked me like, would you trade for David Jiricek? Would you be interested? And my answer was, I'd be interested in anyone who fits the bill of young guy who there's debate on his ceiling, but it's plausible that it could be very high, but his team is interested in potentially moving on. I would be calling about all those guys. Like, there's a reason why we always bring up Trevor Zegras, and it's because, look, he might just be not that good, but if it was 100% certain that he was going to be a clear-cut 1C, Anaheim wouldn't be interested in trading him.
He'd be signed for 8 years at $10 million a year.
Yeah, like the only way you get those guys is by trading for them when there's uncertainty about how good they are. Like, that's how the Flyers got Owen Tippett. And if you're going to take those, if you're going to do it in a way where you're not getting top 3 picks to get the guys that are almost certain to be studs, either A, you have to get super lucky like the way they did with Michkov, where he slips for other reasons and you just pounce, or you have to take big swings and trades that are risky. Like, trading for Trevor Zegras would be very risky. And I would be concerned on a lot of levels that he's just not that good, or maybe he's not even a center. But you know what? Sometimes you have to take the risk, because otherwise then you're just sitting there holding your guys until, they're 28 years old and they don't have any value anymore.
We all silly like the mayor.